We're back.
Yes.
I know it's been a minute, man. We had some unforeseen contingencies, but God is still in the blessing business. This is no losses, just lessons. I'm Mike Trigg.
And I'm Saba Baptiste. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we want to talk more in depth about focusing on parenting. And we're going to back it up a little bit and focus on marriage, right?
Definitely.
Parenting. Once the married couple decide to have kids, what it looks like and what needs to be in place from a strategic to a tactical side. So I'm going to ask Mike to tell me what's on his mind so we can all get the flowing on how we're going to unfold this topic.
Well, I've always looked at my life, and I have 9 kids. I know you didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? But when you have kids in the manner in which I had them, it can be a little challenging for everybody involved, not just you, the mothers of my children, and the children itself, because you want to have a cohesive unit, everybody on one accord, under one roof. And the way I had my children, that wasn't possible. So the purpose of these podcasts that we're doing is to educate the young.
Yeah.
My transgressions be lessons. No losses, just lessons.
Yeah.
Turn all my long nights, all my shortcomings into a positive by educating somebody that's younger than me, whether it be my kids or somebody that's, trying to start a family, to understand the importance of the most important thing you're going to do. Mr. Farrakhan said is select your bride to be the woman that's going to take care of your kids and have a family with, or the man that you going to be married with, have kids with. So, and that's where I'm at with it. And speaking on my situation, it was really tough. But like I said, God is in the blessing business, and we was able to overcome a lot of adverse situations. It don't always work out that way, because me and my kids have had some run-ins. Me and the moms have had run-ins, but I continue to fight. And because I think my children and I all want the same thing, that's a positive relationship. We was able to overcome all the adverse situations, and we're in a great situation right now.
Great. So what I think I hear you saying, that you were still able to put an umbrella of love over all your children and build a real support system that they all communicate with each other. It's a family, and you being the head of the family, and so you're able to share ideas and thoughts with them that can go into the future.
Yeah.
Even if they come from separate households.
Definitely, it was tough. But like I've always referenced God, because truly He's the only Father that I've truly known.
Right.
But that situation, He had to be a part of it, because without Him, it would have never worked. It would have never happened.
Right.
Because one thing I demand is respect. And sometimes I don't always get it from my kids.
Right.
And so it makes you like, man, no, I'm done.
Right.
But I couldn't say that, because He continued to fight for me, to my God.
Right.
So I had to fight for my children.
Well, just to add a little research to that, the Pew Research shows that out of all the groups / racist groups, whether it's white, Black, Hispanic, Black fathers are the ones that spend the most time with their children and nurture them, even if they're not under the same household.
Right.
And another statistic that might shock us, but I think we can agree on, the research shows that 72% of single-parent households are Black people. We're at 72% of single households.
Oh, wow.
And 23% of us are married, and the other remaining number, which is 72%, we're not married or living in, and we're maybe or maybe not living in a traditional married two-parent household. So a lot of people contribute that to our problems that with our children and behavior and opportunities. So what do you think about that, Mike?
Well, I'm kind of torn because I know for a fact, I like to think that if I had all my kids under one roof, I could have propelled them for stardom early. All my kids are doing well. But I like to think that some of my children's dreams and aspirations would have been met had they been under my roof. And me and the mothers were under one accord.
Right.
So, I got, multiple kids, baby moms.
How many, Mike?
5.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Just
with that being said, but that should not, we still supposed to be able to co-parent for the best, for the betterment of the children.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't always that way. So it took my kids to get a little older and seeing me for who I am and me seeing that they truly want to have a relationship, for me to fight and fight and fight, for them to fight and fight and fight, and for us to just come together.
So
Go ahead.
I have a question. I want to ask you, what age of all of your 12 kids?
No, I have 12, I have 9. You stop that, you know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
All of your 9 kids, what age, as best as you can recollect, when they decide I'm going to have a relationship with my father? Because, if sometimes there's a push and pull between the mother and father. So what have you seen that been by the time they turn this age, because you're always there, but when they make the decision to have the relationship with their father?
So with my daughter Snuggie, her mom was always on board with us having a relationship. And so she spearheaded that.
Okay.
And then with my kids, I like to think that my oldest son, DJ, he was in a tough spot because DJ, he had 3 sisters.
Right.
So there are 3 sisters and their mom in the house together, he's the only boy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I think DJ always wanted a relationship with me. I think all my kids wanted that, but I don't think that it was pushed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't think we could co-parent. We wasn't co-parenting like I wanted to, and I was waving a white towel a long time.
Right.
Let's just put the kids first.
Okay.
But with I think Snuggie was real big on being instrumental in all of us having a relationship because
Great. She's the oldest?
Oldest girl.
Okay, oldest
and
girl.
we talk every day. And I thank the Lord for her and her mom, LaFay.
Okay.
know.
So and I guess what I'm drilling down to, 6 years old, maybe.
So to answer your question, I'm sorry.
Right.
I think Snuggie was like maybe college age, probably like freshman at FAMU, something like that.
So that's a much older age.
Yeah, but I mean, it was. But that's the area I think that we had a better understanding.
Okay.
I think DJ and I always had a good understanding. It was just he was in a situation where, he's the man of his house, and me and his mom we weren't on one accord at all. So it was just fight, pull. And him and Snuggie graduated the same year. He graduated from Morgan State.
Okay.
And she graduated from FAM.
Okay.
So he didn't understand at the time. We talked about this yesterday.
Okay.
Me and DJ. He didn't understand at the time that I'm going to my daughter's graduation versus his. He's my firstborn child. She's my oldest daughter. And I said, we talked about it yesterday. He said, Dad, I understand today. But he didn't understand
Then,
at the time.
right.
I say, but the thing about it is,
Tell us why you made that decision. What was
because
that?
that's my daughter.
Okay.
That's a girl. That's my
Okay.
daughter.
Okay.
I'm gonna, what I'm saying, you're a man.
Right.
And you won't understand today, and you won't be in the situation because of how you feeling right now.
Okay.
And he's not going to be in that situation, but he said yesterday that if he was in that situation, he's going to see his daughter's graduation.
Exactly.
I said, right.
Okay. So you watch the maturity over the years, right?
Yeah.
So I think most parents are going to be faced with what kind of person their child, whether it's male or female, going to choose as a permanent mate, you know.
Right.
So that's heavy on a lot of parents' minds, especially if they had a tumultuous relationship with their spouse or the mother of their children.
Right. So, but I've never spoken ill of any of my kids' moms. I wouldn't do that. But they have to see
Right.
firsthand. And I think now that we're older, they see me for who I am through their own eyes, not with nobody else telling you this and telling you that about me. You know what I'm saying? You can see, you know. And so with Mike, that wasn't an issue because he was in my house. You know, he knew, you know, who I was. And but for the most part, you know what I'm saying?
But do you think, because, you know, later on after I got my divorce, I had to raise my kids on my own. And do you actually think that kids understand what causes the breakup, what causes the disagreements, you know, because because we think they know they're in the household, do they really know?
I don't think they understand what caused a breakup, but they understand the discord in the house. You know, they understand when things are not going good. You try to, you know, you had a pillow talk, you think they don't hear the loud, you know what I'm saying, the elevated voices. They do. And but you know what I'm saying, you gotta tend to work through it. I can remember Tawanza, you know, actually today is Tawanza and I have been married 27 years today.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but she, you know, it was a lot of discord, and I think in her mom and dad's in their marriage. So you kind of fight through that or whatever, you know, and that's all she know. You know what I'm saying? With me, I'll be like, man, I'm
But you
done.
said that was the marriage that was a real good example to you.
You know, it was. It
Right,
was the
right,
family.
right, the
You
family.
know what I'm saying? It was
Okay.
just a great family.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And Mrs.
Okay.
Johnson told me herself, yeah, it was some hard times here, Mike. But even when you think about my grandparents that was married for 50 plus years, yeah, it's going to be some discord.
grandparents,
You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be hard.
All
You know,
right.
the easiest thing to do is walk away. But, you know what I'm saying? You know, you can walk away for certain reasons, like infidelity. God should get out of that.
Right.
And so stuff like that, you know, but it is what it is, you know. And but even with Tawanza and I, we did a good job raising Mike, man. It was a good balance. And I love Tawanza for this right here, man. And I'm being honest with you, I didn't think my other kids' mom thought I was good enough to raise my kids. Because, you know, we wasn't together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But Tawanza, she gave me opportunity to be a father figure to Mike, and I pushed him so fucking hard because I didn't have opportunity to push my other kids that way.
Right.
Because I wasn't gonna jump through a hoop
Right.
for my kid's mom just to do this and this with my children. I'm a good dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, and nobody is better than gonna coach my kids better than me.
Right.
They know I was, and they knew that, but for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying? I had to do this or do this or do this, or I couldn't do this, or I couldn't see my kids. And I wasn't prepared. I wasn't going to do that. And I really thank Tawanza, man, for just turning the mic over to me and saying, no, I believe you can do it.
Right. So, happy anniversary, Tawanza. And Mike is giving you your flowers. So,
Yeah.
happy anniversary, Mike.
Appreciate it. Thank you. You know what I'm saying?
That's beautiful. No matter what the journey is, you can get down the road and still appreciate each other for the job that they have done.
Right.
And so let's talk about some of the attributes you look at in a woman that you consider your mate. You know, that's the person that you can consider that you can go that long distance with.
Okay, so the thing about it was when Tawanza and I got married, I knew nothing about marriage. So I had nobody to model that behavior for me.
Right.
So I know what I was getting myself into.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? However, now I've seen her parents.
You see him?
Yeah.
Is that too loud?
I think it's okay.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying? But I seen her parents and they model what a marriage look like, what a family look like, the sacrifice that you got to make, not only for their children, but for their grandkids.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I had an idea, but still, being a father was a learned behavior because I didn't have a father.
Right.
I just knew what I didn't have, and I knew what I wanted.
Right.
So going to Fort Valley State, I've seen a lot of my friends come from two-parent households, and their parents prepared for them to be where they was going. They had stipends, coming into them, and they'll show up. And I was just up there I caught a ride to Fort Valley State.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying, with the Jacksons, you know what I'm saying? So I remember Joe Jackson mom making Joe's bed, make my bed too.
Right.
Because that's what moms do when you drop your kid off at school.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
So did you have the right expectations of a woman when you first started in your marriage, or you saw the woman that you wanted? So
no, I didn't.
okay, now give me some of the things that you thought a woman was, and then as you went through time, that evolved to something different that you needed.
Hold up 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay.
Hey.
Yes. I hope you guys stay with us, right? Everything that we do is for educational purposes and also to get conversations started to help families. Because this is, if you can unify family, we can unify community. So,
Yeah.
and that's something that we want to do. So we'll resume. So
So
expectations in the beginning, and as time went on, you got experience is what kind of woman you need.
okay, so and this is what I teach my boys.
Okay.
When you're looking for a wife, you want somebody that when chips are down, she's gonna be right there with you.
Okay.
If you have a vision, she needs to partake in that vision.
Right.
If she has a vision that can benefit the family, you need to partake in that vision.
Right. Okay. So the opposite, was that the opposite of what you had in the beginning? Did you know to ask to look for that kind of woman in the beginning?
No, I didn't. Because like I say, I didn't know.
Okay.
And that's the thing with my kids.
Okay.
My daughters and my son's gonna know.
Okay.
My daughter Snuggie, she got a great situation going on right now. She dates a guy named Michael, and he is everything that a father would want his daughter to have.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I haven't met him, but I'm going to Houston to meet him.
Okay. That's
And
great.
I mean, he's a great dude.
Okay.
You know, he's a financially independent, got his own business.
Okay.
He seems to be a great provider. And he loves my daughter.
Right. That's important.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's what you want, because now I have to coach my daughter, because we talk about scenarios. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause Snuggie, I want Snuggie here, but I say, Snuggie, I think God got something for you in Houston.
Okay.
And that's Michael. You know what I'm saying? She said, so Dad, like, I mean, Houston, Dad? That's people saying like that. I said, yeah, Snug, you gotta stay up there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm teaching her. I say, Snug, I'm listening to you.
Okay.
But Snug, if you and Mike become one, you gotta be selfless. You gotta be there for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know she told me that when hurricane season come or the storms come, they go to Austin. That I'm not going to Austin. I said, well, if you with Mike, you are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was funny.
Unit, right?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I just got so much enjoyment out of talking to her about that. You know what I'm saying? So, but like I tell my kids, my sons, I say, bro, you got to have somebody that's a team player. Like, so with Tawanza.
So the second one is a team player.
Right.
Okay.
So like even like Tawanza. So when I started the business, Tawanza went on board when we started this business.
Okay.
Because I was an educator.
But did you know you needed that? You needed her on board at the beginning. Did you ask her? Remember we talked about, did you ask her to come on board with you?
I did, and she really didn't want to. To be honest with you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But it's some things that she did in the beginning for me with my business. She made my menus and
she grew into it, right, to help you.
Well, not necessarily, because I just thought that if we're together and we're working, and you know what I'm saying, I don't pay you, the money goes into, and we just pull from it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I had to pay her. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool with it. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I think she talked to one of her sisters, and the sister said, well, if you pay somebody else, you need to pay you. So I paid her.
Okay.
And that was fine.
Okay.
But I don't really, for my kids, I want them to understand, no, that's not, I didn't agree with that, but I did it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I want you to be on my team. Now, I have had people come and work for me and refuse to take any money, like my auntie. And a few more people have helped me out in great deals and refuse to take money. And I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But, but when people work, and that's why you can't come in and work for me and not get paid.
Okay.
I pay you. But back to the question you asked, you got to love them. They got to love you unconditionally.
Right. Right.
And that's the most, and they got to be compatible.
Right.
So if you're compatible,
Yes.
and you're loved unconditionally, everything, marriage is gonna be hard already. But everything else is doable. If you can smile on a bad day, you're good to go.
Right.
So,
Exactly, because you can love past all of that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And because it's going to be bad days.
Yeah.
It's always,
It's peaks and valleys.
It's always.
Yeah. How you doing, Ms. Geraldine?
So that, okay, so the three things, you need someone to have your vision to join with your vision, and you can join with that person's vision if it's going to help the family.
So you're spot on. So let me so the vision I had, I was paying, so I'm an educator, taught 8 years in the district.
Absolutely.
And I think at the most I ever made was like maybe 52.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So you got to think about child support coming out. My check would be $250. You know what I'm saying?
$250.
And 78 cents every 2 weeks. So I had 3 jobs.
Had to do something.
So I worked at a group home that replaced the income that I lost.
Right.
And then in the summer I worked at Circle K, convenience store. You know what I'm saying? Just so I didn't want my lifestyle to change because the child support that was coming out of my income would put a strain on his lifestyle.
Right.
So I got all those jobs. And then, I said, but so when I pulled my grill around to the pit all the time for functions at the school, and they had some teachers push me out. And
well, let's unpack that, because one of the things that stop a lot of young men from being the parent or the dad that they could be is child support.
Right.
That's a big issue in a lot of the Black communities, And so the lesson to take away from that, you got to be intentional about who you're having kids with, right?
Right.
You got to be intentional, and you got to want those kids under your roof with your significant other, and you want to raise that kid and know that that's where you're going to leave your seed at right there, right? Okay.
But so that's the only way. All my friends, come on this way, come on, y'all good. All my friends that I went to college with, that listen, the Drenzo Paynes, the Ant Halls, the Aaron Jeffries, the Andre Clarks. I say, boy, it's hell what I'm going through. I want better for you guys. And they got great families. 1 woman, 4 kids, 3 kids, 5 kids, whatever, and I've always thought about how could I help somebody else not go through what I've been through. I had a lot of wet pillowcases that night. I cried a lot of nights. To the point where Mike would come in there, if I had a rough time with my children, the situation of come up, my son would come in and say, "Dad, you straight?" I said, "Yeah, I'm better now." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but even like me and Maya had surgery on her wrist, and I was down there, and we was talking, and it's certain things that they don't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the point of relationships. You know what I'm saying? So Maya played AU basketball. She played for Tampa Bay Thunder. Back then, it was a lot of money to play for that organization, but it was one of the better organizations. So she said, "Dad, I gotta have the money tonight, or I can't be on the team." So I had to make $500 payments. This early in Konan. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of money. So I said, "Well, come up Friday, I'll give it to you." I gave her the money on Friday, but I was in court with her mom paying her child support purge on Monday. So I had $1,000. Her mama said, "I want $1,500. And if I didn't give it to her, I'm going to jail."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I had to come up with $1,500.
While taking care of her.
Yeah, so just imagine. But so I told the judge, I said, "Well, I just give my daughter $500. You know what I'm saying? So you have to do that. So child support is a setup to make the Black father look
really bad.
Yeah, you know what
I'm saying? Absolutely.
And I don't want to look like that. So I always try to give my kids, and like, you know what I'm saying, like, no, because if you don't, you pay child support, and then the mama buy the gifts, but your name not on the gifts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Unless y'all on one accord.
That's right.
So me and LaFay, we
Co-parent.
yeah, me and LaFay was pretty much on one accord for the majority part. You know, Mike tell you right now, it wasn't about gifts with him because he got so much during the course of the year.
Right.
So on Christmas, it was just what we're gonna eat.
Right.
The good food, my mom would cook some pies and stuff like that, or we'll go to Georgia.
Right.
But that relationship piece is that's the best thing I can tell any young person, male or female. You know what I'm saying? And then another thing, know those parents. Ask those parents some crucial questions. I've always said this in previous podcasts. Ask them, do you do drugs? Have you ever been Baker active? Do you have mental illness? What kind of sickness do you have in your family?
Right.
Because you're about to have a serious merger.
Right. Right.
And it's not that it's going to be a deal breaker, but
you need to know what they expect.
I don't want to be blindsided.
Right. You want to know what they,
You know?
to expect.
Yeah.
So now here's another question you mentioned. So how do you see in a relationship too? There's a give and take to it,
Right.
Because if two people blow up and nothing ever get resolved, they're only doing this. They're getting further and further away.
Right.
So in that regard, the communications is key. So what kind of attributes would that communicator need to have in order to complement your behavior or your attitude in a situation you may or may not agree with?
So I've already told DJ, and I talked to Snuggie. Snuggie's my oldest daughter.
Right.
And I talked to DJ. I asked him, I called him one day. I said, DJ, do you and Sid pray every day together? And he said, no, we pray sometimes. I said, why don't pray every day? You know what I'm saying? So they pray every day.
Right.
You know? And I said, bro, let me just tell you something. You're never to talk to her with a disrespectful tone.
That's right.
And if you able to do that, she'll match your energy.
Right.
You know, even if sometimes things might be getting hot, just say, hey, Sid, not right now. Give me 10 minutes. We'll come back
Right.
and pick the conversation up.
Right.
Snuggie, my daughter, she just don't play. She just like, Dad, if I'm not being respected, we're not having a conversation.
Right.
So that tone got to be automatically
Right.
what it needs to be.
That's how he's got to start.
Yeah,
with it.
yeah,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But she give it.
Okay.
She give that same respect too. So that's the key, you know what I'm saying? So that's the most important thing. And so and I have talked loudly to Tawanza. I've never called out her name, but she's called me out my name.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And she, you know what I'm saying? So those are deal breakers.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
You know, I don't want to ever be disrespected in front of my kids, especially my son.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And when that happens, man, it's like, you know, you can't put stuff in the universe because you can't come back from that.
That's right.
It's out there. You know what I'm saying? So those are deal breakers, you know what I'm saying? So
Okay, so that sounds like, okay, if those things are put on the table, then what you don't like is someone disrespecting you, calling you out your name, and if they put it in the universe, you can't walk back from it. It might just stay that way.
Right.
So if that kind of woman, that's one attribute you don't want in a woman, but what you get to a point and you're having kids. Okay, so here's the first kid.
Right.
And this is the ultimate game changer, you know, if you got a partnership when you have a kid, because that's the ultimate. It don't matter whatever else in the world, that's the ultimate partnership there. So would you say that you have been able to partnership well with your 5 mothers? And if not, explain why not.
No, it's because I feel a partnership well with Shamika and John, because John's Mikhail's other father, so me and John talk a lot. LaFay, of course. And that's it. And Tawanza, you know, me and Tawanza, we be at each other's neck, but for Mike, we cut that shit out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We come together. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna travel together, we're gonna fly together, we're gonna eat together, we're gonna be, you know, we're gonna be there, you know what I'm saying, like that. With the Trigg on the back, the jersey, everything. So but for the ones that I haven't had a good partnership with, I don't think it was on me, to be honest with you. I think that they might have been hurt that our relationship ended.
Right.
But I think that I always was trying to do what's best for our children.
Right.
And because We wasn't married. They controlled the narrative with my kids.
Right.
You know, and I'm just being brutally honest. You know what I'm saying? With Sherika, that's Shane's mom. Had some issues there with him, and she said that I remember this one time she was getting married, and the dude proposed to her and Shane. I said, well, he can't propose to Shane because he can't marry him.
Right.
But they moved to North Carolina. And it was just hell. I had to sign paperwork for her to take him to North Carolina. And she said, well, Shane's part of my perfect family. I said, he's part of my perfect family too.
Right.
But I didn't want to be that guy to say, no, let's give it a try.
Right.
So they moved to North Carolina and it was hell.
In what way?
You know, the husband jumping on my son and stuff like that. So it's the funniest shit ever, you know. And I'm an open book with my life. So, I mean, y'all might say that's too much. Well, and this is the thing. I bought my son a cell phone because I called the house. They're divorced now.
Okay.
I called the house, 11 o'clock on the Saturday. What's up, brother? Can I speak to Shane, please? Don't call my house like that. You know what I'm saying? He raised his voice. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, come on, man, stop it, dog.
Right.
Nobody know what I said on the other end.
Right.
And I'm just like, damn, bro. I said, bro.
Setting the stage.
Yeah, I said, bro, I'm just trying to speak to my son, man.
Right.
I don't want no smoke.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Click, he hung up on me. So I called his mom. I said, man, look, I'm just gonna get my son a cell phone because I ain't gotta go through that right there.
Right.
And this is when you gotta be strong. Now, it's hard for a woman because when you marry, you know, your man is the head of your house. So you gotta get in line with him.
Right.
But when you have a blended family, you gotta be strong enough to say, no, that's his dad, his dad gonna be a part of his life.
Right. Exactly.
And she wasn't that for me. So we don't have too much conversation now, you know what I'm saying? But that's how it has to be.
Right.
And
I'm surprised you didn't go up there.
I did.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
That's you.
So, but the thing about it is when I went there to see my son, I would fly in round trip. I did it 5 times. It'd be alerted to school. I'm coming to kidnap my son, so I couldn't see my son.
What?
It was just crazy. So, I mean, it's hard. And so I got him a cell phone. What Circle say, well, it'll be under our conditions. Only time my son can talk to me on the phone when he's riding the car with them.
Wow.
They said to use a landline in the house so they can monitor his conversation.
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm just telling you what I went through.
Right.
You know, they think about the kid. No, I'm going through hell.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So that's what.
I'm really thinking about the kid.
No, exactly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that could have helped my son. That was my relationship with him. You know what I'm saying? But it kind of killed our relationship, and we still struggle today, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Because of all the lost years and time.
Yeah,
right?
but it's, you know, stuff that, you know, the way he see me, it's not like the way my other boys see me.
Right.
To be honest with you. And that's unfortunate, but I love my son and we're just trying to work through, we're in a good place, but we could be so much further along, you know? And I think the same thing with DJ them, you know, it was just mere, like Taisha told me several times, they don't need to be around you and your wife. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, damn, you know? So.
How much privacy, because, you know, how much privacy you think should be in a marriage? What should a marriage share and what shouldn't they share? I
told Shane this, and I told all my kids. But Shane in a situation where his girlfriend, who's carrying his baby now, they was going to spend holidays together in Birmingham. Well, on the way down there, they got into an argument. She left him in Birmingham. She left him. He didn't eat dinner with them on Thanksgiving. My daughter was in Birmingham, so they hung out. You know what I'm saying? But thank the God for Jada being there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He told us about that. And I told him, I said, Shane, let me explain something to you. And I told all my kids the same thing. I say, like, when you told us that, we look at Jamie totally different than the way you look at her. So you gotta be careful what you tell your family because you'll forgive Jamie. You'll forgive her.
We still looking at it with
and we still holding grudges. You know what I'm saying? So some things you got to keep in your house. You know what I'm saying? You take it to God in prayer. You know what I'm saying? That's all you can do. Because you put out there, you know what I'm saying? we're gonna look at Jamie a little different.
Okay, and that's a good point because you find a lot of you always hear like the son family don't particularly like the daughter and vice versa,
Right.
and it's probably because of what he have shared when his emotions are high
Right.
and things are going real bad. But what are some of the things that how would you approach the daughter-in-law? Would you go through the daughter-in-law? Would you go through your son, or the son-in-law? Would you go through your daughter if you had an
No.
issue with how they treated your children?
No, so like right now, me and Sid, that's DJ's. Soon, she's my daughter already. You know what I'm saying? He gonna marry that girl. So I can call Sid directly, and I talk to her all the time. I say, Sid, how's your transition to Tampa? Because she's here now.
Okay.
And so I and I tell them all the time. We have, when I talk to DJ, it's on speakerphone.
Okay.
And he knows he cannot mistreat her because she's my daughter.
That's very good.
Like I said, I have yet to meet Michael, but it's gonna be the same thing.
Right.
So
So to summarize, what else you want the community to know when we're talking about parenting, when we're talking about choosing a mate, and the communication piece, how it has to be in terms of having a successful relationship? Because honestly, it's a trial and error. If you haven't had the experience, you can't tell people how to go. But since you're very experienced, in this,
I just think that I'm going to be a great counselor,
right,
and I probably can get paid for it.
right,
And the reason why I say that, because my experience is what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? I know right now, like, you know what I'm saying, how to be a great husband.
right,
I know how to be a better father.
right,
Because when early on as a father, it's this way.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's the way I was raised. But then I think about, do I really like that? So I tell my kids, hey man, you can say what you need to say in a respectful tone.
Right.
And that's what it is, but my kids are just like me, especially my boys. They got that Y chromosome, and we get to talking about what we're passionate about, it elevates. So I had to take that, elevation and say, that's no more passion.
Right.
I ain't getting my feelings about it.
Right. You don't get in your feelings.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But early on, that's disrespect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you raised your voice. Yeah, I'm your daddy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No, it's not no dad. No, I shouldn't raise my voice at you either, son.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I want to talk. I want to talk in a sensible tone.
Right. Mutual respect.
Yes. And parents gotta understand, kids deserve mutual respect.
Right. I agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? They think because we paying all the bills. No, you can't talk to them like they're less than.
Right.
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 But in my era, shit. Yeah, boy, Annie Mary, if she called you, and my grandma said, Michael, and I said, yes, ma'am, of course. But if she was in the den and I was in the back room,
Yeah, she didn't hear you.
and if I got there and I went out of breath, she finna pop me. Get here faster. Yes, ma'am.
Oh wow.
That's how I was raised. So just think about that.
Okay.
So you think your kids, you know what I'm saying? So I say, Mike, sir, but he's not, I can't see him. Hey man, didn't I call you? You know what I'm saying? That's just overkill, but that was great for us back in those days.
Okay.
That's why we were so strong as a people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because those morals and values.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they say the kids changed. No, we changed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm guilty of saying like, oh, that wasn't really necessary.
Okay.
But Saba, it was, because it showed the ultimate respect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
To this day.
And that's what we lack from our kids,
To this
is the
day.
ultimate respect.
Right. Right.
You know? So, I'm guilty of that in this era, you know what I'm saying? And not trying to be a Disney dad, trying to be friends, but just trying to reach the kids where they are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What's up, bro?
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up, and next week let's talk about education in the family and in the community. So we like to say thank you, and no losses, just lesson one, everyone to take this information and use it in their household. Ask questions, build better communications, build better relationships. So what you like to say, Mike?
It's one thing that I just said, that I want you guys to understand your kids deserve mutual respect. I know you stand in my house, eat my food, this and that. Yeah, I get it. I'm not saying they have a voice outside of the mom and dad, but I'm saying when you're talking to them, they need to be spoken to like they're loved.
Yes.
And if you do it that way, it'll be well received.
Yeah, love conquers all.
Right.
Yes, mutual
Yeah.
respect. Yes. So I think that's it for our segment. No losses, just lessons, and we'll see you soon. Mike,
On the yo.
Saba, have a good day.
Yep.
Goodbye.